The Baker's Secret is a terrific story. I heartily give it 5 stars. This video is not a book review. It is a reading of a selection near the end of the book. It is a very moving and a very different view of D-Day. There is a review of the book and a reading of a selection near the beginning of the book on YouTube. The publisher entices readers this way. From the critically acclaimed author of The Hummingbird and the Curiosity comes a dazzling novel of World War II, a shimmering tale of courage, determination, optimism, and the resilience of the human spirit, set in a small village in Normandy on the eve of D-Day. Stephen P. Kiernan paints a brilliant and vivid tableau of humanity during one of the most harrowing points of modern history. This selection describes D-Day morning from the perspective of Emma, the baker. I also read the 2 books the publisher mentioned in its comments. Each of them is very different, and each of them also deserves 5 stars. My background description on the next 2 slides is scant to avoid inadvertently revealing a spoiler. Background: Emma, the baker, has been running an underground barter system while the Nazis have been occupying her little town on the coast of Normandy. Whenever people in the town spoke about being rescued from the Nazis, she always said that it's never going to happen. When one of the Nazis discovered her secret, he beat her badly, and Monkey Boy is helping her with the cart she uses for her daily rounds. Emma describes Monkey Boy as a half-simpleton, half-elf, who likes to climb up on things, especially trees, hence his nickname. June 6, 1944. The D-Day invasion begins. The story. Monkey Boy dropped a bit of bark through the branches, watching it tumble. He had spent hours in certain trees, keeping watch, exercising his facility with numbers. 505. That was how many dead bodies he had seen so far that morning. Before that day, he'd only seen 4, bringing his lifetime total to 509. Meanwhile, an average of 38 men per landing boat, the ramp dropped and out they poured, the first wave falling from gunfire almost as one, others spilling over those bodies into waist-deep water, and on average 11 of them making it out to the sand. The astonishing thing, the thing which he did not understand, behind every landing boat, despite all those bodies lolling in the surf, more landing boats waited, foam at the bow as they surged forward. The ramps dropped and their men fell, and yet the next one poured in immediately like an unstoppable tide of humanity. Of ships, he had observed them left to right and out to the horizon more than 1,000, which was as high as he could count, and more. But there was a sense to it. Behind the boats that carried soldiers, warships blasted away with their big guns. From time to time, a detonation came from the distance, some even bigger battleship too far out to sea, which flung missiles inland high over his head. The projectiles were huge. It was as though they were firing jeeps. Long after the shell passed overhead, there came a roar like a giant opened furnace, like a detonation of the planet itself. The sound of the shells firing delayed by distance, and Monkey Boy cupped his hands over his ears. Still, the sight remained, extending from the beach below him all the way to the horizon. It was the most elaborate, terrifying, beautiful thing he had ever seen. Someone else needed to witness this and explain to him what it meant. Monkey Boy clambered down his special sycamore in search of someone to tell. But who? Monkey Boy towed Emma's wagon into place. The fighting popped and banged and roared, some of it less than 100 yards away. He set blocks behind the wheels, as he had seen Emma do. Then he skipped around to the back of the wagon and pulled on her good arm. "What do you think you're doing?" "Come see." He raised her up, starting a fireman's carry. "Get off me!" Emma yanked back so hard her injured arm banged the wagon's hull. She closed her eyes, her pain rising like a fire, then retreating slowly like a coal going dim. "So sorry," Monkey Boy said, bobbing like a duck in small waves. "So sorry, but you have to see. You want to see." "What are you talking about? What do I want to see?" He pressed his hands together as if in prayer. please come see. I should not be the only one." "See what?" she said through gritted teeth. "Tell me." He jumped away, then back, unable to contain himself. "This." He threw his hands in the direction of the beach again and again. This. "Monkey boy," Emma said, her voice as steady as she could make it. "Calm down. What must I see?" He stretched his arms wide and smiled with the whole of his face. "How they save us!" Later that day, Emma herself could not describe how they managed it. Monkey boy removed the wagon slings and tied them to his shoulders. She slid them up her legs to the thigh, then hooked her good arm around his chest. And then the boy stood on the platform of the wagon and lifted them both up into the largest tree on the coast, as hidden as squirrels, but with a view as for eagles. Soon they were standing where the thick first branch met the trunk, and from there he climbed like it was a ladder, hand and foot, up and away from the wagon. Emma's face burrowed into his back, while she clung and gritted her teeth and told herself, "He will not let you fall. This is not how you die." "There," Monkey boy said at last, his back warm and breath hard, but his voice still a youthful chirrup. "Here we are." At first Emma could not see. She had to step out of the harness, her good arm hugging the trunk, until she was clear of him. Then she pressed herself into the tree and slid inch by inch around to the side that faced the ocean. When she opened her eyes, Monkey boy sat 5 yards out on a limb, swinging his legs. He grinned and pointed, "That way." Emma turned and saw the end of the world, a ship larger than any floating thing she had ever seen before, 10 times the length of her neighbor's fishing boat, listed in the sand, fire bellowing from its middle. Tanks pointed nose first into the beach, their rumps in the air. An airplane, one of its wings missing, perched on its tail as if a giant had planted it. Trucks with stars on their rooftop canvas lay on their sides, or stood stationary with all doors wide. Different hues of smoke rose here and there, light gray to darkest black, some of it so thick she could not tell what was burning. More than anything, though, Emma saw the bodies. They lay in all sorts of positions, clustered at the waterline and here and there all over the beach. None of them were moving. A group of soldiers waited in the surf, collecting more bodies and towing them by one limb or another onto the beach, where still other soldiers hoisted them to lie in a row like a makeshift morgue. A man with a clipboard inspected each new body as it arrived, then made a note on his papers. From down the beach she could hear machine gun fire, the zip-zip sound bullets made when they entered the sand. A cluster of men dispatched toward the shooting, throwing grenades and using flamethrowers until the machine guns stopped. Other men rolled out tracks of wire mesh, a makeshift road on which the few trucks still working now made their way. She heard fighting at one end of the beach exits, but it was too far to see. Emma could tell, however, that the Atlantic Wall, which the Nazis had been so proud of, those 4 years of work, had not held the Allies off for more than half a day. How many bodies it had required, though, how many young men to prove a fanatic wrong. Emma turned to Monkey boy, heart in her throat, and he was still grinning. "What in the world can you be smiling about?" She could barely speak. "Don't you see all of this?" Monkey boy squeezed the limb with his legs to secure himself, while opening his arms to the beach. For us. Yet more machines and men were landing by the minute, trucks with balloons over their heads like miniature zeppelins, tanks, half-tracks, jeeps, more ships approaching from the horizon, men with red flags directing traffic, an army pouring onto these sands hardly 3 miles from the village. Emma looked again. The dead outnumbered the population of the large nearby village. They outnumbered all of the people she had seen in her life. There was nothing for the invading hordes to gain. The Nazis had stolen the livestock, flooded the lands, and cowed the people. There would be no spoils. Then why? Emma suffered daily for her friends and neighbors. They were doing it for strangers, throwing themselves on that beach, slaughtered until the sea ran dark, and another wave came and was slaughtered, and another, whole cities of men. They had never met Emma, and she would never meet them, and still another wave. It was so humbling. Emma clung to the tree and did not think she could continue to breathe. The weight of their sacrifice might crush her. Here they had died, and up the beach they were still dying, in flocks and willingly, for the idea that she, Emma herself, and her friends and family and neighbors ought to live in freedom. Who on earth deserved such a gift? She turned again to Monkey Boy, tears stinging the cut on her chin, and she sobbed, "For us,